Imagine, just for a second, an intensely divided society. We're talking about a world completely fragmented by fierce tribal loyalties, local deities, just constant division. How in the world does a society like that find a single unifying framework? How do you take a completely fractured world and somehow build an unbreakable, synchronized global community out of it?
Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to unpack the foundational practices of Islam that literally changed the course of history. We're diving into exactly how a highly specific set of shared daily practices managed to transform a deeply divided region into one of the largest, most unified communities the world has ever seen.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with a fractured tribal world, move into the 5 pillars framework, then look at shaping daily Muslim life, and finally, wrap up with the global Muslim Ummah. Let's get right into it.
Part 1. A fractured tribal world. To really grasp this, we first need to set the scene and understand the world of 7th century Arabia, the exact world that Islam first entered.
You see, before Islam, the Arabian Peninsula was this incredibly intense, crazy religious melting pot. It was a fiercely tribal society where your ties to your bloodline, they were everything. In fact, the Prophet Muhammad himself was born into the very powerful Quraysh tribe in Mecca. At the time, most tribal Arabs worshipped local gods, and they kept sculpt statues of many of these deities in a temple-like structure in Mecca, known as the Kaaba. But then, into this highly fragmented polytheistic landscape comes Islam, what historians call a radical reforming religion. Muhammad's goal was to restore Abrahamic monotheism. He was calling for the worship of and absolute submission to one single, all-powerful God. The whole idea was to unite this deeply divided people under strict monotheism.
Moving right along to Part 2, the 5 pillars framework. Let's look at exactly how this reforming religion structured its beliefs to actually create that kind of unity.
The secret sauce really lies in the 5 pillars of Islam: shahada, salat, sawm, zakat, and hajj. Now, these are the basic acts considered absolutely obligatory, at least by Sunni Muslims. But I want you to think of these as way more than just rules. They are a synchronized framework for believers, a shared system of action that literally everyone participates in. So, let's break down the very first one.
The first pillar is the shahada, which is the profession of faith. It simply states, there is no God but God, and Muhammad is God's prophet. Now, you'll actually often hear this translated as, there is no God but Allah, which, can sometimes sound a bit foreign to Western ears, but the absolutely crucial point here is that Allah is literally just the Arabic word for God. So whether you're a Christian, a Jew, or a Muslim, if you're speaking Arabic, you use the word Allah. This pillar anchors the entire faith in that strict monotheism we were just talking about.
All right, Part 3, Shaping Daily Muslim Life. We're going to explore how the rest of these pillars practically dictate the rhythms of time, physical sacrifice, and the daily routine.
This brings us to the second pillar, which is salat. This is the strict requirement for ritual prayer. It's completely obligatory, unless you haven't hit puberty yet, or you're too sick, or you're menstruating. And what's so incredibly powerful about salat is how it directly anchors the everyday routine of a believer. A Muslim's entire day is actually structured around the sun through these 5 specific prayers, happening at dawn, noon, afternoon, sunset, and late evening. Think of it like the ultimate daily reset. It basically ensures that no matter how crazy or busy your day gets, you are constantly pausing to reorient yourself, both mentally and physically, right back to your faith. It's kind of like a built-in calendar notification for the soul.
Next up, we have the third pillar, sawm, which is observed during the holy month of Ramadan. And this one requires some serious physical endurance. During this entire month, Muslims do not eat, they don't drink, they don't even smoke cigarettes during the daylight hours. It's this massive shared physical sacrifice that the whole community goes through together.
Now, here's a really fascinating detail. Because Ramadan is based on a lunar calendar, the month actually shifts around the seasons year by year. This means the physical sacrifice shifts pretty dramatically too. A winter Ramadan, it features shorter days, making it generally a bit easier to manage. But a summer Ramadan brings these incredibly long, hot days that demand serious physical endurance. But the beauty of it is that everyone in the community shares in the shifting challenge, which just bonds them even closer together.
Moving to the fourth pillar, we have Zakat, or almsgiving. This requires non-poor Muslims to give a specific percentage of their income directly to the poor. What's absolutely brilliant about this is that it literally bakes financial responsibility to the community right into the structural framework of the religion. It is not just a polite suggestion, it is a hard structural obligation.
In fact, the Quran returns again and again to the specific theme of taking care of the less fortunate. It defines a truly good person as someone who, and I quote, spends his substance, however much he himself may cherish it, upon his near of kin, and the orphans, and the needy, and the wayfarer, and the beggars. It represents this radical commitment to social welfare, which, if you think about it, was profoundly disruptive to those old tribal hierarchies in Arabia.
And finally, we reach the fifth pillar, the Hajj. This is the grand pilgrimage to Mecca that Muslims must try to fulfill at least once in their lives, provided, of course, they're healthy enough and have the financial means to do it. It's really the ultimate lifelong goal. It physically connects individual Muslims from all over the globe, pulling them right back to the geographic epicenter of the faith.
Which brings us to our final section, Part 4, the Global Muslim Ummah. Let's look at the profound historical and, honestly, modern result of all these shared practices.
So, the people who embraced this worldview and submitted to the will of God became known as Muslims, and together they formed the Ummah, which quite simply means the community of believers. And here is the absolute key to early Islamic history. Being part of the Ummah trumped all other ties. Yes, even those intensely strong tribal and blood ties we talked about at the very beginning.
The underlying logic here is just incredibly powerful. The 5 pillars essentially act as this behavioral glue, because by doing the exact same things, fasting at the same time, praying the exact same way, giving to the same causes, millions of people forged an unbreakable, highly unified identity. It wasn't just about what they believed up in their heads, it was entirely about the shared, synchronized actions of their bodies and their wallets.
I really want us to pause and focus on the sheer, incredible scale of this synchronization. Just think about that number, 5. 5 times a day, every single day, this entire global community of believers completely stops whatever they are doing to pray.
Take Egypt as a prime example. It's the birthplace of one of the longest continuous cultures the world has ever known. Yet today, it stands as the largest Arab country in the world. And 5 times a day, millions of people in Egypt literally turn their backs on the pyramids, which is the ultimate symbol of their ancient heritage, just to face Mecca in prayer. That right there is the absolutely astounding power of the Ummah.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this thought. A relatively small group of people coming from an area with basically zero natural resources somehow managed to create one of the world's great religions and empires in a remarkably short period of time. And they did it through shared action. So what is the true power of shared daily practice in organizing human life? Honestly, it just might be the single strongest tool we have for turning a completely fractured world into a deeply unified community. Thanks so much for joining me to explore this truly fascinating history.